What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what on earth the charts are telling us, why on earth NIO was kind of red today, and what I do predict to happen for tomorrow. I'm also going to break down what the earnings told us so far, what earnings are coming out for tomorrow, what important economic data is coming out this week, and what you should be watching for tomorrow for NIO stock. Now, before I break anything down about all the news, all the numbers, all the information, and all the data, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share, a free NIO share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer has been extended for another 2 weeks, so check it out before they run out. With that set out of the way, let's get on with the video. NIO is down about 3.31% for the day, and there are many reasons for this. We did actually see many other Chinese tickers take a bit of a hit because of complications in China. We are seeing lots of virus cases over there, and we also saw their population decline for the first time in, I believe, like 60 years. But we do have some good news, and that's the fact that they reported, this is just from their reports. I'm not going to question things like that or say anything contentious. Just based off the reports alone, okay, we actually saw 3% GDP growth for 2022, but despite the retail sales beating estimates, it says right here that retail sales in December declined 1.8% from a year ago, less than expected, right? That's also important to note. There's some contingencies out there a little bit different in the data. Many stocks do not like that. But what else is good is we're seeing people like Ryan Cohen buying into Alibaba, turning bullish. And that's a good thing for not just that company alone, but the Chinese markets. All right, I just wanted to put that out there. That could be something positive. Now, going over some data, just to note, NIO had above average volume today. Pretty decent sign. We did see a little bit higher of a short volume percentage from this end. It has been on decline. I do expect this to come up a little bit. Excuse me, sorry guys. And even though it kind of came up right here, I do expect this to start coming down once we start to see NIO push up a little bit. I think it has some potential. And the price ratio, it's curling just a bit. It could continue on this uptrend it's on if NIO continues to push up, which I believe it could. We got some decent ratings from many analysts, and we are in a very critical level. Now, I mentioned to you guys that Tuesdays tend to be pretty decent days, but so do Wednesdays. And because we did open kind of red today and we do have that big gap, there is a good chance that NIO could get a bounce tomorrow. Now, I want to note that tomorrow is a very important day because we have PPI coming out. This is the producer price index. This data affects the United States markets. It's a pure reflection of CPI from the producer side. It's expected to decline about 0.1% month over month, and we want a 6.8%. That's what the increase is expected to be year over year. So we're expecting it to slow down the rate at which it's increasing. We want it to slow down month over month. That's what we're hoping for. Now, considering how CPI was, it's more likely that this actually helps the market pump. So we might see SPY and NASDAQ pump a bit, which could actually help NIO. But I want to note, we have some Fed speakers like Bullard. We also have Harker speaking as the day goes on. We also have the Fed Logan speech. So the Fed speakers are back, and we know the market tends to not do as well when they talk. Bullard is also notorious for being very, very hawkish. On Thursday, we have jobless claims coming out. It's going to be very important. This time it will affect the market. Initial jobless claims before the market opens. Then we also have, on Friday, just all Fed speakers all day. So lots of important data is coming out. For earnings, we also have earnings. We have Charles Schwab that came out. It's coming out tomorrow. Today, actually, before I talk about tomorrow, we had Goldman Sachs missing big time on earnings, giving us one of their worst reports in nearly 20 plus years, right? Pretty bad for Goldman Sachs, unfortunately. Morgan Stanley, however, did well. For tomorrow, we have Charles Schwab, we have PNC, and a bunch of other banks, plus other companies. Not to mention that for Thursday, we have the big old Netflix that's going to be reporting their earnings. So please be ready for that. It's going to be very important for us. But before Thursday comes, obviously, we have Wednesday and more earnings. Uh, the last thing I'm going to talk about is how this all could affect NIO. In my opinion, we could actually readjust the rising wedge. Sometimes they tend to do this. Uh, Hopefully, we try to hold it this time. We have a massive gap that formed right here. NIO did start to bounce off that $11 area. Now, you might think, oh, NIO came down today. Well, the thing is, if you go back in time, on the 9th of January, NIO actually hit 10.7. NIO was in this exact price area on the 11th of January, last Wednesday. It pushed up a little bit, trade sideways, came down a bit, but it held this area pretty well. So it could be trying to hold a new support. So it's trying to hold up. Let me explain this. This time, we still have this rising wedge-like pattern. It's not necessarily dead as of right now. If NIO comes down, we break below this, you start to see the low 11s. We're going to have to try to hold 11. If we break below 11 and we see the 10s, 10.8 is going to be a key level. If we break, let me show you the area first. I'm going to be watching this zone, okay? 11 to 10.8. This is going to be a critical area right here. Like this. If we break below this, NIO is likely going to crash and fill the gap down 10.35 low 10s. If we break this area, I'm hoping that does not happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just warning you just in case something bad happens. So tomorrow when you watch NIO, make sure you watch it very carefully if it does come down here, which I doubt. I think NIO has a new support zone. I think NIO dropped a little too hard. I think PPI might help the market pump a bit, and that could actually help NIO come right back up to start filling this gap. NIO gap down, we pushed up, we tried to start filling the gap. I think NIO is going to slowly, it's going to like push up, retest the trend line around 11.3, get another bounce, and slowly start to push up and start filling this gap and get back to 11.8. That's my prediction for tomorrow. Just like right here, see NIO gapped down. It came all the way down to 11.2. We bounced up. We filled the gap. We fell at 11.8. We came all the way down. We gapped down again off some not so great news, but then we're starting to push up again. So I believe we're going to continue this uptrend. NIO is going to go for the gap fill over the next 2 days, in my opinion. I'm not going to talk as much about the overall market. SPY did come a little bit down today, which is okay because what happened was SPY was strong in the beginning of the day. We retested descending broadening wedge resistance. This blue line right here. I know it's a little hard to see. The resistance line right here. It basically slowed us down. But I do believe SPY could get close to my target. My target was between 4.402 and 406, between that area. I believe SPY will get there. I also think the NASDAQ is doing exactly what I predicted. Where's my NASDAQ chart? I'll just look it up again. On the NASDAQ, oh, it's right here, sorry. So on the NASDAQ, I predicted this. I predicted that as we approach February, we're going to really start to see that this thing like tank. I think that's going to affect NIO. Before that happens, we might see it try to hold these levels, maybe a little longer. But for some time, I do believe we're going to try to hold these higher levels before we do start to downtrend. And I also predicted that the NASDAQ would go for the gap fill. And I think we either came very close to doing it, or let me look carefully. We almost filled it. I don't think we fully filled it yet. This tells me the NASDAQ's going to pump a little bit more. And this will likely help NIO pump up a bit more too. Apple broke the resistance temporarily. We had 137. That's huge. 136.8 was key resistance. We broke it. That's showing some nice strength. And I think now that we broke it, if this thing wants to keep going, if PPI is decent, Apple could try to go for 140, maybe the gap fill. And that would make my targets on both SPY and the NASDAQ very possible. All right. And I just want to note that there's still potential in this market to push up, but the VIX is finally starting to bounce. It actually had, technically, it's red as of right now. That's just relative to its open. Is it going to come down to fill this gap? Is SPY going to pump up a little bit more with the NASDAQ? Maybe. Maybe. Maybe the market pumps a bit. Maybe it does before the market makes a big reversal. But I do believe the VIX is getting ready to bottom. The VIX is going to start reversing later. And I do believe the market's going to make a big reversal, or at least there are many signals suggesting that that's very likely. Whether you're looking at the VIX or other ones, I do believe the market has not necessarily proven to me yet that this rally is going to be massive. I think SPY could get to this 402 to 406 level, but if you want to convince me, and I said this earlier, if you want to convince me that this rally that we're seeing is going to last long and this thing is going to break, it's like 420, 430 on SPY, and then the market's going to squeeze hard, we have to break 410 to convince me. Break and hold it. I don't see that happening. So far, it's not happening. We're actually struggling to break the resistance. I do think we're going to break it, at least temporarily, but then we're likely going to come right back down and the market's going to slow down. It's going to take a lot to break this resistance. I just don't see that happening. That's just my opinion. And that's the reason why I do believe the market is set to reverse. The market is still set for some potential downside, in just my honest opinion. We do have a potential head and shoulders like pattern forming on SPY. Also on the NASDAQ. I have it drawn out right here. See, we could actually push up and hold up a little bit more for another week or so on NASDAQ. Then we might slowly start to descend. And as February comes to descension, as we start dropping, it's going to get harder. This in turn could drag down NIO. But for NIO, if the market bounces off PPI, I believe NIO could pump all the way back up to this 11.8 area. If we break it, 12 is still very possible. That's my prediction. I'm predicting NIO will push up. But just in case some bad piece of news comes or something like that, right? If NIO does come down, make sure you watch, or you're prepared to watch, the level right here, where my cursor is. If it comes down here and it breaks below this rectangle, it's going to likely come down to this gap fill zone, come down pretty hard. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's most likely going to go for this gap fill, and that's my prediction. I think it's going to push up and fill this gap soon, but I just wanted you guys to be prepared for anything. All right? I do predict this gap fill, just to be clear, but like I said, be prepared for anything. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.